Do you know that feeling when you have a test, like an integration test that goes through an API, runs your logic, goes to the database, but sometimes it fails? And you don't have anything besides the assert failing to understand what the hell is happening. Maybe it's just happening inside of your test environment, like for example, as part of your pipeline. How do you know what can you do to fix that issue? Maybe you go into the code and you try to bring some logging in place. Maybe you try to write to a file so then you can go there and grab the information of what is happening. What if I told you that XUnit V3 has just a simple, elegant, and beautiful attribute that you can put into your code and you'll get that for free in just a couple of minutes? So let me show you that. This is the eShop project, a project by Microsoft that you can find on GitHub. And this project is a complex project, okay? You have a ton of things here. You can see different types of services, different types of APIs, and as part of it, you have these tests, okay? So the first thing that I will do is that I will run one specific test. For example, let's go here into the ordering, and it doesn't matter. Let's just run one of the tests. So the test is executed. There's nothing here. And even if it fails, for example, let's say that I'm expecting not the OK, but the created, the only thing that you'll get in that moment is that the expectation was not met. And you have here a small trace, okay? So you can understand where that assert failing happened, okay? This is basically pointing to that assert.equal, just that. So let's say that this sometimes fails, maybe fails on your pipeline. What can you do? The first thing that I will do is to upgrade this project to XUnit V3. If you are not aware of it, XUnit V3 is a new package. It's not as simple as going to your projects and saying upgrade version. In fact, you need to replace the package. So what I will do is that I will bring, let's go to the manage NuGet packages, search for XUnit, and notice that you have the XUnit 2.9.3, and nowadays we have the XUnit.v3, okay? Is that one that I will install, and I will also uninstall the other one, okay? Just that. This will force me to perform some changes, but before I do that, let me say that I have a new course about XUnit that is available on DomeTrain. During that course, I use a ton of the new features of XUnit V3, so even if you are already familiar with testing with XUnit, you might want to take a look into that course because you will see some of the new features in action, okay? You can find the link in the description. So to upgrade this is quite simple. You just need to go here, and the first thing that you'll do is that you'll need to perform a small change to our fixture because the iAsync lifetime now expects a value task. So instead of a task, the initialize async will return a value task. The other thing that I need to fix is to go here into our tests. And there, what I will need to do is to bring here in place a cancellation token. And in the XUnit V3, we show that during the course as well. You have now the test context.current.cancellation token. I will quickly apply that to all the source code. So it's done. Basically, I apply this test context.current.cancellation token that you can see here into every single place it was expecting a cancellation token. If you want to know more about this feature, this new XUnit feature, by the end, I will suggest watching a different video that I have specifically about this new feature. So I apply that. Now, if I run my tests, since now the tests are running with XUnit V3, so if we run that specific one that is failing now, okay, you can see it's failing, but it's exactly the same information. But I want to see something more. I want to take a look into what is happening inside of that test. And since this is one functional test that is going through the API, naturally, in a project like this, if we go into our ordering API, we go to that project, we go to the program, and we can see here that there's a set of important things that are here defined. For example, things like in these service defaults, we have telemetry in place, for example. So why not trying to capture this information? Why not trying to capture all the logging effort that I already have in place and have that as part of the test result so I can quickly understand what is happening. So we can do that, and it's quite easy to do it with XUnit V3. How can you do it? So let's go to our test. Doesn't matter where, but we'll put it inside of our test project. And what I can do is that for the sake of diagnosing this problem, I can bring here a new attribute, a new tag, that let's name it assembly, to say that it applies to the assembly, and the name will be CaptureConsole. What this will do, this will basically capture the output to the console of what is happening with the application. So if you are running your application and you can see in the console all the information that you might need to diagnose the problem, you can just come here and say this. There's two options inside. By default, they are true, that is the capture error, okay, to say that errors will be captured, and also the capture output. Doing this is exactly the same as setting both of them to true. Once you do this and you run your test once again, notice what will happen. So the test executes, and you can see here the output, the normal output that we have seen so far, the exception, right? But then notice what is here, okay? All those info and fails, they are all from our console output, okay? You can even come here and see all of those outputs from the database connection through entity framework, for example, seeing connection strings and all of that. So all of that information that you would need to understand as part of this specific request, where it goes through all the data that we can collect to process this, will be captured inside of that test. So it's a huge advantage when you want to diagnose a problem in a test like an integration test or a functional test or an end-to-end test, okay? Because you can find this in the context of your test result. And as you can see, it's quite simple. It's quite easy to add that attribute. I recommend that by the end, once things are stable, just come here, remove it. Otherwise, you are collecting a ton of information that is not useful most of the times. So if you haven't upgraded to XUnit V3 yet, this is a great reason to do it. As you can see, with a ton of simplicity, with just one line, you can quickly diagnose a problem. If you are still not convinced that it's time to move to XUnit V3, I have this video right here with another useful feature, the one that I showed before of the cancellation tokens. There, I will explain you why that is important and why I'm so happy that we have this nowadays in XUnit by default.